Hello and welcome, my name is Frank Fischer, and in this video I would like to show you how to use DeepCode in a Docker container in your own private environment. So as you know, DeepCode has a website, DeepCode.ai, and you can use the internet-facing scanning engine of DeepCode to scan any repo that is hosted in GitHub, GitLab or Bitbucket on the internet-facing services of these companies. But what if you have your private environment and you have your own version control system behind the firewall? In this case, DeepCode is providing a Docker container. And this Docker container can be hosted internally and can be configured to point towards your version control system. What I will do here now is to show you how to set this up. I will literally do a standalone infrastructure. So if you follow these steps, you will have a Docker host with GitLab as a version control system and DeepCode running on the same machine. Obviously, if you change the commands, you can point DeepCode towards your production environment. But with this, you actually have a machine behind the firewall that is independent from anything, and you can use this as a testing environment. And then after you gain knowledge and you gain experience, you can point it to your production environment. Okay. So what do we have here? We have two machines and an internal network. We have this Windows machine here to record and steer the process. And we have an Ubuntu server in the back. And this is actually the secure shell that I have to this Ubuntu server. You see it's an Ubuntu 18.04.3, the long time support version. I made sure that it has the latest patch level. What I also want to show you is the underlying hardware of this machine. So as you can see, it has 12 gigabytes of RAM. It has an Intel i3 processor and a 1 terabyte hard drive. So it is not really the biggest machine. It's not needed in that regard. The system runs nicely and smoothly on this. So this is all you need, so to say. Okay, so what did I do? I configured this machine to have several IP addresses. So it has the 5, the 6, and the 7. We will use the 5 as the host IP. So I'm communicating with a secure shell to the 5. I will use the 6 for GitLab and the 7 for DeepCode. By using a port redirection, you could also assign everything to one IP address. But I think for the purpose of this demo, it is more structured if I use different IP addresses. Another thing that I did was I installed Docker. I'm using a tool called Snap. So I did sudo apt install snapd and then sudo snap docker. I use Snap in that regard because it's nicely configuring the machine and I made some good experiences with it. Another thing that I did was I added a group called Docker. I added my user to this Docker group and I lazily rebooted the machine, which restarts the Docker daemon. And with this, when the Docker daemon starts and it finds the Docker group, it actually accepts everyone in the Docker group to run the Docker command line tool without the sudo in front of it. So I will save myself a bit of typing by omitting the sudo. You don't have to do this. If you're not doing it, you have to add the sudo in front of the Docker and all of my commands here. Yeah, that is literally all the preparation that I did. And now let's get into it. First, we install GitLab. We're gonna do this on the IP6, as I said. GitLab needs to have 3 volumes for data, config, and logs. So we're using these commands here to have these volumes generated, data, config, and logs. And then we are using this command to literally download and start GitLab on our host. So what we do Docker run, we detach, so we get our shell back, we give it a host name, we're publishing 3 ports, 443 HTTPS, port 80, which is HTTP, and port 22, which is secure shell. We give it a name. So this is the name of the container. We assign the 3 volumes that we just did, config logs data. And this is the image that we want to have. And you see we're using CE or Community Edition latest version. So I'm starting this now. The whole process takes on my machine 3.5–4 minutes because it first needs to pull the bits down, then starts up, and after starting up, installing itself, which takes like 3.5 minutes. And I will cut the video here and we will see again when this is done. So you remember this command that we ran, docker run detach, then it downloaded or pulled all of the bits that were needed. And then it started off. And you can see I used the docker ps command to see that our image is running here. And you see the status. It says starting. 5 seconds, 3 minutes down the road was still starting, and then roughly 4 minutes it was healthy. So on my machine here, it takes like 3.5 minutes to start up. And as soon as this startup is done, the website of GitLab is accessible. Okay, so we have done this. Now let's configure GitLab. The first thing we need to do is we need to open the website on the 6 with the port 80, and we set the root address. So let's do this. New password. Needs to be 8 characters or longer. So we have this now, and now we can log in with the root and the new set password that we just did. So this is our private GitLab, as you can see on the private address now. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to get GitLab accepting local servers for webhooks. So how do we do this? We go here on the tool into the admin area, and down here on the settings you find network. So we're opening settings network, and you see outbound requests here. We expand this, and here we say allow requests from local network from webhooks and services, and we edit our future DeepCode address, the 7, into this, and that is all that is needed. With this, we are done. First step. Okay. Next, I want to simulate a bit your probably real environment here. So what you will probably do is you will have groups to set up a kind of a security regime, to define visibility of projects and stuff. And this is what we will do now. Okay, so we will create a group called developers, a private group here, and we will put a new project. We will set this also on private, and we will upload a little guinea pig file to see that our system is really working later. Okay, so let's do this. So back to GitLab. In GitLab, in the admin area, you find overview, and here you find groups. So we're going there, and we are saying we want to have a new group, and we call this group developer. And it has a group URL. We keep it a private, and everything else we would just keep as is. So the next we want to do for these developer is we want to set up a project. So we can either go back on the main page and simply say create a new project here. And the new project, we call it testing. And it won't be under root, it will be under our developer group. Testing, it is a private project. And there we go, create the project. So we have a private project now for this group developer. And to set up our little guinea pig, we add a new file to that. And what I have here is I have a Java file here in the back. That I would like to copy and paste in here because I know that there is something wrong with it. CWE643.java, we call this, and the commit message add new file is good for now. And we commit the changes. So now we have a little guinea pig in here, a Java file in a private project. Good. Going back to this, we are here now, and the next step we have to do is we have to create a normal user, the DeepCode bot, and to generate an access token for this user. Okay, so back to GitLab, back to our admin area, and we add a user now. So here under users, we make a new user, and we call it DeepCode bot. And the idea why we're calling it bot is to show everyone that this is actually a machine. It's not a human being. We give it a username, DeepCode bot, and an email, deepcodebot@local.local, and everything else we can leave as is. So access level is a regular. It doesn't need to be an admin. Just we're creating this user now. So the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to impersonate as this user. So we're taking this element here, impersonation tokens. We can find it under admin area, users, our user, DeepCode bot, and then impersonation tokens. We give it a name, DeepCode bot. We leave the expiry date open, which means there is no expiry date. We don't have to renew that token. We need the scope API, read user, and read repository, generate impersonation token. And here you see this token, and make sure you're copying it right away. You won't be able to access it again, as it says here. So we are copying this. And I have a little space here in my file, so I can, so to say, store this here for later use. Okay, our developer that we have, so the DeepCode bot, needs to be part of our developer group now, so that it has access to scan these repositories. So we go admin area, overview, groups. Here's our developer group. We go into developer group, and we're taking our DeepCode bot user, and we're adding it to the developer. Add user to group, and you see the guy is now part of this group. Good. So the last thing that we need to do is this. We need to create an application, and we need to redirect on this URI. Okay, so what do? We go back into the GitLab configuration. Again, admin area, and here you find this icon looking a bit like a Windows icon with a filled one, called applications. Here we go in, we say new application, and we generate our DeepCode application. And the redirect URI is exactly what I just copied out. It has the 7, yeah, because we're using this as our website, our IP address, and the website or the redirect is going over 8080, and then API GL login. What scopes do we need? We need to have API, read user, and read repository. That is all that is needed, and we are done. So now we get the application ID and the application secret. We copy the application ID. I have some space here to save it, and same with the secret. And I copy it into my little script here. And with this, we are done with GitLab. We set it up. Okay, now we can focus on DeepCode. So the DeepCode container comes as a tarball, and you can load this tarball into your local Docker container repository, or image repository, I need to say, by using this command here. Okay, so back to my server, I have in my home directory, I have this tarball. And it has quite a decent size, as you can see. And this is what we will now load into the repository of our local Docker installation. So we're doing this, and it will unzip the tarball and then start to import the different layers that are in there. And one of the layers is actually a bit bigger and takes a bit more time. exactly this one that you can see here, 1.25 gigabytes to be included or imported. And as soon as this is done, we are set up. So now our local Docker installation knows about DeepCode. The next thing that we have to do is we have to set up a file where we have the environment set up accordingly. Okay, so what I did was I have a directory in the server directory called DeepCode. And in here I have this environment file. So now I will edit it with the nano. And here we go. So the file is exactly what you find also in the description, and it has a product entry gl_op, then the host URL, which is the 7 in our case, and the port 88, as you can see here. The GitLab URL, which is the 6 and the port 80. And here we need to come up with the application ID. So we go back in our little file here, and here we have the application ID. So I'm copying it and pasting it in here. Next, we need to have the application secret. So we go back in here, we're copying the application secret and pasting it in here. And last, we have to do the personal access token, and this is the impersonation token up here. So we're copying it and pasting it in again. And the last line that I have here is that I say we are running on local infrastructure. We don't have an internet-facing certification authority or something like this, so we don't need this. Okay, so this is all we needed in that regard. We write it to the file and we exit. Good, so configuration is done. And now we only need to do one more thing. We have to create another volume, and this volume is in this case now for DeepCode. So it's the working directory for DeepCode. We are generating this using the volume command again. And now we are set up and we can run DeepCode. This is the Docker command to run it. You see Docker run. RM means we the containers will be removed, will be deleted after they are closing down. We're doing it interactively. We are binding two volumes, so the sock volume here, and we have our work directory that we did. We define the configuration file that we just generated. And you see we have the front port defined again as an environment variable, the 788, and the name DeepCode, and DeepCode latest is the name of the image to use. Okay. So we have all of this. We can fire this up. It will load the environment variable and start to unpack. This will actually take a bit of time because we will generate several Docker containers and stuff. And in the grace of my internet provider, it depends on how much bandwidth I get. So I will cut here and I will come back as soon as all of this is done. So welcome back. As you can see, there was a lot of loading of layers. There was some downloading of other bits from the internet. And in the end, we created several containers. So the DB1, Redis, suggestion, bundle server, API, website. And we attached all of these servers to a private networking bridge. So what is running now is several containers in the backend, as I just showed you here. They are connected using a user-defined bridge. So they're communicating outside of or inside a private network, to say it better. And the only port that is actually forwarded into the general network using our 7 IP address is the port 8080 from the website here. that is then used to communicate with this infrastructure in the back. If you are interested in more of this, use the commands docker ps or docker network ls, and you can see the bridge definition and how all of this looks like. Okay, so coming back to my little script, so this is actually how the docker ps command would come back, and you see the different images running here. And here are the two commands that I just mentioned, the ps command and the network ls command, to give you more of an idea of how this all works. Okay, so now everything is set up, and by opening up this website, we go on the 7, which is obviously DeepCode. We go on the port 8080, and we're using a browser to do so. Just open this up. You see we are redirected now to the 6, so to our internal GitLab server. And it is asked if we authorize DeepCode to use the account accordingly. So we are saying yes, authorize, and boom, there's our DeepCode, our internal DeepCode. You see 78080, here we are. Here's our developer group, and here's our testing project, and it already found our critical report here. Let's have a look at it. And you see DeepCode is running as you know it from the internet, as you would expect it. So you can drill down into code and you see all the topics here. Okay, so what I wanted to show you was how to set up DeepCode in a private environment using the Docker container from DeepCode. Thanks for watching, but now it's your turn. Go to deepcode.ai, set up an account and see what DeepCode can do for your code.